Alright, we are going to do a deep dive into Much Ado About Nothing. In the overview, we learned the sort of the general shape of the plot. And maybe you followed it, maybe you didn't. But in this, we're going to go over it just like we did with the novel, just like Great Expectations. And we're going to look at Act 1, Scene 1. They've got it divided into 4 parts. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. Okay, so this first paragraph isn't about the play itself, it's about Shakespeare in general, and about tone, how Shakespeare uses dialogue to implement his tone. And tone is best described as the general attitude a writer expresses towards the subject or towards the audience. So it's the feeling imbued of, it's the background music of the scene you're watching. Is it supposed to be suspenseful? Is it supposed to be scary? Is it supposed to be action-packed? Is it supposed to be funny? That's how we know what the tone is. And the tone lets us know if somebody says, "Oh, I hate you," whether we should take them seriously or whether they're just like being silly. "Oh, I hate you. Ha ha ha, you're funny." That's the tone. Okay, plot summary. A messenger comes to the home of Leonato, governor of Messina, who lives with his daughter, Hero, and his niece, Beatrice. The messenger says that Don Pedro, the Spanish Prince of Aragon, Claudio, a Florentine, and Benedict, a Paduan, like a young Jedi, Paduan? Paduan. I'm going to go with Paduan, are returning victoriously from battle. It's reported, what is a Paduan? Relating our characters to an Italian city of Padua, or its inhabitants. Oh, well, that makes sense. Okay. Returning victoriously from battle, it's reported that Claudio has carried himself particularly well and is well regarded by his comrade, Don Pedro. When Leonato's niece, Beatrice, asks the messenger about Benedict of Padua, he reports that Benedict also has served well and is returning with the other men. Even though her words convey her apparent dislike for him, the tone of her language suggests that she actually finds him attractive in many ways. So you may have encountered that before. Somebody was like, "Oh, I can't stand Benedict. He's so annoying. He's so full of himself. He thinks he's so pretty." And you're like, "Do you? Do you think he's pretty? I think you're just secretly saying you think he's pretty." Leonato is pleased with this news and greets the soldiers graciously when they arrive. He also opens his home to them for at least a month. Once alone, Beatrice and Benedict exchange flirtatious taunts and insults, engaging in their merry war of mutual affection. Later, Claudio confides in Benedict that he wishes to marry Leonato's daughter, Hero. Benedict appears to share this admiration. Don Pedro soon enters, offering encouragement to Claudio, as well as intervention on his behalf at a masked ball that evening. Oh, so they come up with that plan like right away. He says they're gonna throw this masked ball. I could jump in and pretend to be you if you like. Beatrice speaks about Benedict using puns. These are jokes that explore. We know what a pun is, right? It can be kind of hard to detect a pun in Shakespeare's plays because he doesn't talk like we do. First, it's in iambic pentameter, which we don't really talk in iambic pentameter. Secondly, it's in Shakespearean English, which is a little removed from our modern-day English. So Beatrice twists the messenger's words into puns as well. For example, when the messenger refers to Benedict as a man stuffed with all honorable virtues, she replies, "It is so indeed. He is no less than a stuffed man." As in, like, he's not real. He's a doll. She subtly twists his words into an insult. He is no less than a stuffed man, but for the stuffing, well, we are all mortal. This example of one character building on another's rhetoric to repurpose language is found throughout the play. Let's look at a few more examples of literary devices. While taunting Beatrice, Benedict says, "Then is courtesy a turncoat?" That is personification. He is giving courtesy, which is not a human-like qualities of being a turncoat, a traitor. After Benedict hears Claudio's professions of love for Hero, he responds with his own, less flattering viewpoint. "There's her cousin. As she were not possessed with a fury, exceeds her as much in beauty as the 1st of May doth the last of December. Benedict eloquently expresses his belief that Beatrice is much more attractive than Hero. By comparing the budding beauty of May to the chilly ones of December, he figuratively illustrates the differences in his mind between the two young women. Exceeds her as much as beauty as the 1st of May doth the last of December. She's more pretty than Hero is like saying that May is different from December. Right? He's saying they're very different. During the War of Words, Beatrice tells Benedict, I had rather hear my dog bark at a crow than a man swear he loves me. That is hyperbole. Apparently, I've been saying it was irony. The melodramatic statement emphasizes Beatrice's poor opinion of love and marriage and is likely used as a way to hide her real feelings. So it's hyperbole. I had rather hear a dog bark at a crow than a man swear he loved me. Hyperbole. Write that down. Don Pedro, Don John, Balthazar, that's not somebody who's been mentioned before, Claudio and Benedict arrive in Leonato's house. Don Pedro apologizes for Leonato's trouble in hosting and entertaining the group, joking that he has come to meet his trouble. Oh, like we're going to be trouble. As was implied they would, Beatrice and Benedict trade sarcastic insults in a war of wits. Both use figurative language to personify both disdain and courtesy. Both also insist that they're completely immune to the charms of the opposite sex. Leonato invites the men to stay at his house for the month, and Don Pedro thanks him on behalf of the entire group. Leonato even welcomes Don John, Don Pedro's illegitimate brother, who tried to overthrow Don Pedro in the battle. However, his invitation is somewhat hesitant. If you swear, my lord, you shall not be forsworn. I'm not quite sure what that means. If you swear that you will not be forsworn, if you do anything wrong, you'll pay for it. I think is what that means. Claudio tells Benedict in private that he has fallen in love with Leonato's daughter Hero, and asks him what he thinks of her. Benedict answers that he looked on her, but noted her not, making the distinction that he saw her but didn't really notice her. He mocks her each time Claudio praises her. In one exchange, Claudio asks, referring to Hero, can the world buy such a jewel? Like, can all the money in the world buy something like so beautiful? Benedict replies, yeah, and a case to put it into. Or that's probably yay. Yay, and a case to put it into. Benedict complains that not enough men are dedicated to staying bachelors. He compares marriage to wearing a yoke, as a field animal is forced to do. Benedict then casually maintains that, despite her fiery temperament, Beatrice is more beautiful than Hero. Shakespeare uses language to play with the relationship among characters and elevate the drama of their exchanges. For example, during their merry war of words, Benedict tells Beatrice, well, you are a rare parrot, teacher. Although he is referring to her mimicking ways, he is also alluding to some future irony that will occur between them. When the couple later falls in love, despite their rivalry, they're essentially copying or parodying each other through their newfound affection. Looking to a previous example, we recall Claudio asking Benedict if he noticed Leonato's daughter, Hero. Benedict replies, I noted her not, but I looked on her. Here, Shakespeare plays with the difference between simply seeing something and really noting its meaning and value. The play's title, which originally would have been pronounced Much Ado About Noting, also is a pun. Things that end up being nothing still are sometimes noted by the characters. In other words, characters note things that don't really happen, or that they misinterpret. Yeah, it would have been pronounced differently because of the way they talk, their accents. Much ado about noting. And so it's much ado, putting a lot of emphasis on nothing, but also about noting and what is noted. Definitely write that down. Recall, too, Claudio's expression of deep admiration for Hero, saying the world could never buy such a jewel as her. Upon hearing this, Benedict plays with the meaning of the word by replying, yea, and a case to put it into. Where Claudio uses the word to describe Hero's sparkling preciousness, Benedict changes the meaning to imply that her value is actually cheap enough to afford a carrying case as well. As the play continues, Benedict will resist love, as he does here in speaking about Hero, through his cleverness with words. Beatrice uses her wit to stand up to the stereotype of an Elizabethan woman who is expected to accept her inferior status and yield to the will of the men around her, like Leonato, a husband or a brother. Her banter with Benedict illustrates this sentiment, and he notes, God keep your ladyship still in that mind, so some gentleman or other shall escape a predestinate scratched face. So he's saying, be quiet even in your own head, or some gentleman will end up with a scratched face. Okay. Exercise speech. No, thank you. Much ado about nothing. Okay, plot summary, part 3. Don Pedro enters on Benedict and Claudio speaking and asks why they're being secretive. Benedict, Don Pedro is the commander. Benedict and Claudio are the two soldiers that fought underneath him. Benedict tells him that Claudio loves Hero, and although Claudio tries to deny it, he eventually relents. Benedict argues that he would rather be burned at the stake than say that Hero is worthy of Claudio's love. Don Pedro tells Benedict he is a heretic regarding love, and promises that one day Benedict will fall in love. Benedict argues good-naturedly with Don Pedro to the contrary. He says that if he ever falls in love and gets married, they can hang a sign on him, depicting him as a horned animal, and reading, "Here you may see Benedict, the married man." Benedict then leaves to tell Leonato that they'll be ready for dinner soon. The revelation of Claudio's secret love for Hero is just the first of many instances in the play that touches on the theme of secrets. Many of the events and controversies of the play will revolve around secrets, especially when a character's secret infatuation is revealed to other characters. Another theme is the comparison of love to religion. Don Pedro quotes the proverb, "In time the savage bull doth bear the yoke." The savage bull doth bear the yoke, to support his claim that everyone, even Benedict, eventually falls in love. The savage bull represents the unmarried man, and the yoke is a symbol for the loss of freedom and love. Benedict says that he is willing to become a heretic, or someone who won't abide by religious rules. He actually imagines himself being burned at the stake in his unwillingness to love or to marry. Finally, Benedict describes the horned animal sign that may be hung to mock him if he does marry. This symbol, to his mind, likely represents a man who has been cheated on. Horns often represent a cuckold, or a man whose wife was unfaithful. Shakespeare uses similes, using like or as, and metaphors, comparisons that don't use like or as, to explore such abstract ideas as revenge, love, and class throughout concrete examples. These types of figurative language help the reader to understand an idea more fully. For example, Benedict tells Claudio, "I can be secret as a dumb man." With these words, he creates a similar dumb meaning incapable of speech. Creates a simile that helps the reader understand that he can be as protected with a secret as one who can't speak. Okay, part 4. After Benedict leaves, because he's going to tell the governor that they're about ready for dinner, Claudio speaks more openly to Don Pedro, who is respected among his friends because of his social status. Before Claudio left for battle, he saw Hero with a soldier's eye, but after returning from war, his feelings are now softer. Don Pedro schemes with Claudio on how he might win Hero's affections and ask for her hand in marriage. His plan involves Don Pedro disguising himself as Claudio during the masked dance that evening and courting Hero for Claudio. It's that classic, "You're not smooth enough to court her, let me pretend to be you and court her for you, and then once she agrees to marriage, we'll switch back and you'll be the one that's courting her." Okay. When Claudio compares his past, having seen Hero with a soldier's eye, to his view of her now, he is comparing war and love. This comparison will be made many times throughout the play. War is rough and physical with no place for softness or love. Yet after the war, Claudio sees Hero with delicacy in his heart. In addition, Don Pedro hatches a plan that attacks love with the military strategies of war, i.e. deception. These include deception and the philosophy that at the end, Hero falling in love with Claudio justifies the means of deceiving her. Don Pedro describes wooing Hero for Claudio in terms of taking her hearing prisoner with the force and strong encounter of my amorous tale. This likens Hero to a prisoner of war who he will capture with his charms. And then, of course, we see from outside the play that that's very silly and it's a mistake from step one. And he should just let Claudio be himself, and it'll all work out in the end. All right, flashcards. Pun is a play on words, and sarcasm is meaning the opposite of what you're saying. Okay, and that'll be it for section 5.2, and in 5.3 we'll get more of Much Ado About Nothing.